Good afternoon, and thanks for coming. My name is Terrence Thomas. I'm going to serve as your moderator for this session. I'm the co-founder of Activate Detroit, an economic development company that works at the intersection of government affairs and community engagement. And with me are Ian Conyers and Kyle Julio of Amazon. Ian serves as the head of community engagement for Amazon in the Midwest. He is a Detroit, Michigan native and a graduate of Georgetown University with a BA in government and a MA in urban and regional planning. Ian served as an elected member of the Michigan Senate from 2016 to 2019, including time as Minority Vice Chair of the Transportation Committee and a member of the Economic Development and International Investment, Energy, Technology, and Banking and Financial Services Committee. Wow, a lot. Kyle DeJulio has led economic development for Amazon in the Midwest for nearly 6 years. Prior to Amazon, Kyle launched and led the Midwest office for the Mayor of London's promotional agency, London and Partners, and also served as Director of Business Development for the City of Chicago's Economic Development Agency, World Business Chicago. His career in economic development began while working in an international trade and investment role as Vice Consul with the British consulates in Chicago and Miami. Kyle is currently involved as a board member of the World Business Chicago and the Will County Center for Economic Development. He attended DePaul University and remains actively involved with the university as an advisory board member for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. Kyle currently resides in Novi, Michigan. And so we're going to get started with the question for you, Kyle. Amazon has been a sponsor of the policy conference for several years now, but this is the first time that we've had the opportunity to hear from Amazon. Tell us about the work that Amazon has done in Michigan to this time.
For sure. I mean, a lot's been going on in that time frame. I think, and not that we didn't want to talk about it, but there's so many different business units doing things in Michigan at the moment that we felt that it would be a great opportunity to share it, and that will obviously continue to grow. Maybe we'll be back next year to talk more about it. I mean, Amazon is still relatively new to the state of Michigan. Our first fulfillment centers opened here in 2018. Those were in Livonia and Romulus. And from those two to where we are now, just 7 years later, we have 26 facilities across the state supporting our operations and logistics network, and now employ over 22,000 people in the state. So it's really, an upward kind of hockey stick growth curve for us. And a lot of that growth is not just because we thought it was a great idea, it's because customers, like many of you in the room, hopefully, continue to order things from us. We continue to find new ways to improve those delivery speeds, delivery times, the customer experience, the customers that we obsess over every single day at Amazon, and that's what's driving that growth. So we're really excited to be here at the conference and interact with several of the partners who have helped on each of those 26 partners, and some that aren't even public yet, which will hopefully be soon. So just a great opportunity to meet with a lot of our local partners in one place.
So Kyle, I think most times folks think of Amazon as a transportation or logistics company. Can you share a little bit about some of the other work that Amazon has done in terms of its investing in Michigan and also Detroit?
For sure. So our first logistics and operations facilities were in 2018, like I mentioned, but actually we started in Michigan with a relatively small tech hub at the time in Detroit that opened in 2015. And that small tech hub has now evolved into a 500-person office right downtown on Jefferson. So we see the value in the state here, not just from the logistics perspective, but also the tech talent, the great university talent coming out of the state, also attracting great university talent from elsewhere across the region and across the country. But not just logistics too, like you mentioned. I mean, Amazon is the everything company. So from A to Z. So the smile, if you see our logo from one side of the smile to the other, it is the A to Z connecting, and we hope to do that and everything in between. You may have heard of projects like Project Kuiper, something that we're really excited about, which will continue to grow, which is our low Earth orbit satellite program, which will provide broadband to places of the state, really everywhere, but certain areas of the state that don't quite have that access today. I'm also really involved in Michigan. We're excited about the growth of Amazon Pharmacy. Amazon Pharmacy will be and has started to, in the Detroit area, provide same-day delivery of people's prescriptions out of a facility that we just opened last year in Wixom. So So many different things going on. If you ask me the same question tomorrow, there'd probably be something new. That's one of the great things about working at Amazon is how quickly we evolve. And again, it's that trying to solve that very complex customer problem or that easy customer problem, and then executing on it very quickly.
So let's follow. You talked about solving that customer problem. Can you expound on that? You know, some people might be familiar with the Amazon mantra of day one mentality. Can you elaborate on that and how that leads to culture in terms of solving customer problems?
For sure. Everything that we do focuses, and maybe Ian will touch on it, but leadership principles that we're driven by, and I've mentioned, customer obsession being one of them. In everything that we do, we're starting at the customer and working backwards. And the day one mentality doesn't mean okay, it's a new business unit and we're going to approach that, which we do, as it was the first day working here and it was a new company that we'd launched. But there's problems that pop up that really are often delivered from our associates working in our fulfillment centers that solve massive problems that get adopted worldwide very, very quickly after that. And I'll just share a very quick example from the early days at Amazon. This predates my time here, but you might be familiar. We started as a company that just sold books, and when you put books in a warehouse, the easiest way to do that at that time was to organize them by title. So if you have all of these books in a warehouse by title, and a really popular book title comes out, like Harry Potter, which was one for us, it creates bottlenecks. So if all these hundreds of thousands of orders for the Harry Potter series are coming in, and you have hundreds of associates going to the same area, it created problems for us. And through that relatively simple problem, which like in hindsight seems like, oh yeah, of course, led to something that we call random stow. So now if you were to enter an Amazon warehouse and you see a robotics shelving unit, everything in that unit is randomized. So it's not all the Harry Potters in one unit and light bulbs in another unit. It looks like a hoarder's basement. It's stuff everywhere. But it has allowed us, especially as we've continued to grow and scale, to get items to our associates quicker so that they can fulfill the orders. It's allowed us to better optimize our network and our inventory. So things like that, and that's, when we think day one, now it seems very, very simple, but at the time, that was a really complex problem. So we approach every day in that mindset.
Wow, that's incredible. Never thought about that. If you ever get a chance to see an Amazon warehouse, it is quite the sight. And I want to get back to the facilities that you've opened recently. As we take a look at Detroit, Lansing, Gaylord, and Traverse City, I think especially at a conference like this, we're talking about the Detroit Regional Conference, a lot of communities are thinking about, okay, how can I get that kind of investment in my neighborhood, in my community, and what are the pros and cons to that for us? Can you elaborate a little bit on how Amazon selects its sites and determines where it ought to make an investment?
Mm-hmm. So again, to go back on focusing on the customer and working backwards, we do and we will continue to invest in places like Detroit and Grand Rapids because that's where there's customer density. Not all of our customers live in those cities. So how do you kind of fill the space in between to make sure that customers are getting that same Amazon Prime delivery experience? So that's where some of the new sites that we opened last year in Gaylord and in the Traverse City area come in as part of a program focused on rural delivery and kind of closing that spacing. We just announced continued investment into that program, so $4 billion is going to be spent on rural communities across America on that program. But things that are important to us, some are obvious. Yes, we move things in vehicles on the roads, so thank you, shout out to Governor Whitmer's team. Fixing the damn roads has actually helped us tremendously, but the infrastructure at our sites and the ability to easy access off the highway, communities that have developed or had shovel-ready sites that are don't have opportunities for conflict, so they're not close to residential, for example. Those types of things work really, really well for us, and obviously talent. So access to talent, access to a great workforce, and workforce development organizations that we can partner with, not just on the launch of the building, but for hopefully the several years that we're invested in those communities to ensure that we're continuing to get some of the best talent at our locations.
Can you expand on it a little bit in terms of some of the private public collaborations that you've had that led to either site selection or identifying talent for your facilities?
For sure. I mean, the best example, and helps, it's one of our biggest buildings, is in Detroit. So when we opened our facility that you may have driven by off of Woodward at the former Michigan State Fairgrounds, that collaboration through, with the mayor's office, working with the city of Detroit, Detroit Regional Partnership, there were several, regional, local organizations that were helping us identify that location. But also something that's very interesting about that site for being as large as it is for Amazon is we don't often have buildings that big in an urban area. So we knew that we had access to talent, but we weren't really not confident, but we didn't really know how to approach, how do we ensure that Detroiters are getting access to these jobs. And one of the great partnerships that came out of that project was an MOU that we entered into with Detroit at Work, which is the city of Detroit's workforce development agency. And it really just kind of established, like, here are the rules of engagement, here's how we're going to collaborate to ensure that Detroiters are getting access to these jobs, learning about the jobs, and hopefully starting their career at Amazon. So that resulted in that building launch. We had committed initially to 1,200 jobs at that location. Today it's 2,400 jobs, so double our commitment. And then I think even better than those numbers are about 60% of those employees in that building are Detroit residents too. So kind of proof in using the data to see that all that hard work that went into the workforce collaboration and working with those regional partners and through the advice of them and the city really created a project that's obviously great for Amazon, but great for Detroit as well.
So this is where I transition so Kyle can get something to drink and ask Ian a couple questions. So Ian, Kyle mentioned that Amazon develops new projects. The company also makes investments in the community as well. So can you unpack for us and share more about what drives your role at Amazon in supporting the work that the economic development team does?
Absolutely. Kyle mentioned at Amazon we're very leadership principle obsessed, and we have a leadership principle that shows that success and scale brings broad responsibility. And I think when you look at our approach prior to really the pandemic, when we grew exponentially, I think we doubled our physical operation network and our associates across the country during the pandemic in a 3-year period. I think at that time we realized, moving away from our original strategy, which was inventing on behalf of the customer. If you think, a company of engineers thinking about what we can do in the community, we can do what we do best. So we can, invest in programs like Alexa, things that save times for family. But after growing that tremendously, especially in communities like Detroit, we realized we can do both. And we started our community engagement program, really trying to find out what's important in each community that we serve in. So for each region, especially Detroit, we put together a plan that's really focused on pillars that are important to that community. In Detroit, we've been very focused on upskilling, we've been very focused on wellness, and kind of broadly, how can we help make a difference with those organizations that are moving the needle in Detroit? So using Det6 for an example, our fulfillment center location, there's so many different...
What's Det6?
So Det6, sorry, alphabet soup. Det6 is the name for our location at the State Fairgrounds, the former State Fairgrounds. Really neat story there. Thinking about when we opened that and thinking about that community, that's the neighborhood that I grew up in. I grew up on the west side of Detroit, used to go to the State Fairgrounds, and thinking about folks that get a chance to work there and relive some of those memories. I think you'll recall when we did our opening, we had a site manager who brought a picture of her daughter when she used to take her to the State Fairgrounds and how she gets to think about those memories and reactivating that space. And so much credit to Kyle's team and our local developer, but thinking about how can we connect local groups to what we're doing at the site. So we partner with groups like East State Fair Block Club, My Rescue Nature, to really listen to what's going on in the community and make sure they have that relationship with the site. Over the past 5 years, we've supported over 150 hyper-local organizations with about $5 million of direct investment. We really get a chance to let organizations do what they do best. Whether they're large or small, we know they know how to support the community, bring people to the table. And it's also neat because we get to be a conduit to all the other Amazon businesses. Not just our .com operations, but also Amazon Web Services. How can we support local groups like TechTown and get them connected to our larger network at Amazon? So it's been really fantastic to connect that way.
So unpack that a little bit in terms of, can you identify some of the community investments that you've made, not just in Detroit, but also throughout the state?
Absolutely. When we first got started, we were looking at organizations that are helping to upskill so many folks that want to be involved at Amazon or want to have the opportunity to work. We worked with Life Remodeled originally. Life Remodeled over on the west side of Detroit in the old Durfee High School. Now they're calling it Durfee Innovation Center. It's become a really great hub for local nonprofits. And we partnered with them at first to support their 6-day cleanup. So we wanted to make sure that we're focused in the community around our sites, but also in the broader community. When we looked across the state, Lansing, Grand Rapids, and other communities, there was a need to connect with hyperlocal organizations there too. In Lansing, there's a great group called Peer Forward. So we partnered with them to create a mentorship program at Everett, at Sexton, and some of the local high schools there as well, so that the students were learning and we're teaching rubric that would have them prepared not only for jobs in operations, but also some of the tech jobs that come with Amazon as well.
So when you say upskill, can you elaborate on that? What is upskill?
So it's very intentionally broad. We look at upskilling in terms of programs that prepare you for the future of work. So whether it's technical training programs, we have a great program called Amazon Future Engineer, where you can go through mods that will have you prepared to have a job on day one and hit the ground running. We also look at physical training, how you can run on an operation site, so you can learn site maintenance, you can learn all types of programs that will have you ready to be successful inside of our fulfillment center. If you haven't been to one, as mentioned, it is not your parents' or grandparents' factory. I grew up on the west side. Both parents, on both sides of my family worked at GM, Ford, Chrysler, kind of working inside. When you get inside a fulfillment center at Amazon, it is a fast and high-tech operation. It looks like Chutes and Ladders or Connect, if you've ever seen those. It's really interesting. And more recently in Pontiac, we had a chance to bring some of our community partners there. And we want folks to see that when you're inside, there's so many different career paths. And so starting with high school students and local community groups and letting them see the work that they'll be doing before they get the opportunity to do it.
So let me transition to you, Kyle. So in light of all of that, and I'm not going to disclose who I see, but I know there's someone in this room who's like, we want Amazon investment in our community. Can you go through and identify some of the things that you're looking for when also selecting beginning to select the site? So starting at the very beginning of an Amazon project, when the community gets that phone call from you about your project, what are some of the things they should know, and what are some of the questions they should be ready to ask?
The most important thing is to return the call or email as a starting point, because you'd be surprised sometimes that doesn't happen. But I mean, honestly, I talked about some of the things. I'm an economic developer, was mentioned in my background, so I've been on the other side of the table in trying to sell sites and opportunities in different locations to companies. So the thing that I, now working at Amazon, I think I maybe missed in that was, you need to, it's great to be a promoter of your community and tell us all the great things and your assets, but that's what your website's for. I can go on your website and see that. I want to know, do you think this is the right opportunity for this site? Are there companies that have looked at this and why were they successful? Why weren't they? We really want to learn from you as to what makes it a really great project and what could potentially slow us down. That's probably like the intangibles. The tangibles are things like, it's a lot easier for us to build a warehouse on a site that's already zoned appropriately, right? So when we want to move quickly, reducing some of those barriers certainly helps us a lot too. But yeah, honesty, have a frank conversation with us. Those conversations aren't recorded. I'm not going to go tell somebody else that you had a concern about your community, because ultimately it means a better project, and that happened in Detroit. It was a perfect example. Can
you elaborate on that?
I mean, when we introduced the project Det6, which is the site at the fairgrounds, obviously there was a lot of excitement from the city about it, but there were iterations that we went back and forth several times with the city, our design team, trying to figure out. This is a very, very large site in the city of Detroit. And the mayor wanted to ensure that, obviously, that there'd be some future development there, But the initial plan that we had was a very, very large building that occupied almost the entire site, which would be a really great economic development story, but it didn't really fit with the mayor's vision for what he wanted to have there. And if you've driven by there now, there's several other warehouses there. Now some advances in technology and the chutes and ladders model of our warehouses, now we were able to build vertically instead of building a 1.5 million square foot building occupying most of the space. So things like that to kind of understand this is what our desire is, and we can make it hopefully fit. And if it doesn't fit then, if we hadn't evolved and innovated to have these more vertical buildings, we might have been back there 2 years later, right? So that we have conversations all the time, some very, very preliminary. And eventually, I think we always get to the right point that is the best for Amazon and the communities that we invest in.
So returning the call.
It's important. That is important.
And in a second, just truly being candid about what the opportunity is there. And I would also say being clear about whether or not the community is ready to receive you as well.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Got it. We talked a lot about how to get into a community, how to build relationships inside a community, but Amazon's also done some work in identifying other challenges that probably also impacts some of their team members maybe. Can you expand on that a little bit, Ian, especially maybe the food insecurity piece that you guys have been working on and any other projects as well?
Absolutely. We have a tremendous fleet, so to speak, delivering and looking at food insecurity and the great organizations that have already been working on that here in Detroit. We wanted to make sure we were connecting them to our logistics. And so we have a program called Logistics for Good, where we can help local nonprofits get food to families faster. An example would be our investment with Forgotten Harvest. If you're familiar with Forgotten Harvest, they focus on food rescue. They go to restaurants, they go to large grocery stores and collect that food and get it to families who are in need. And it's a daily operation. We're able to lend them cold trucking storage and cold chain compliant trucking directly from our site, both in Detroit and in Pontiac. And we lend those hours to them to allow them to shift funding because many of them are not operating their own trucking system. So they're leasing, they're working with contractors as well. We also have a tremendous focus on disaster recovery. We have an entire team, Amazon Community Impact, who are focused on how we can deliver in those times of need. An example would be most recently in Southwest Detroit, when they had the flash flood, the freezing. I mean, it was everything happening at the same time. Not only were we able to support Detroit Public Safety Foundation financially, but we were also able to send goods directly from the site to the location. And working with those partners, Southwest Solutions, who are on the ground and can get materials, front-end materials to the groups faster, but also, we know some of these events are long-term. The cleanup, what families will need, it doesn't stop immediately with the disaster. Really neat example, would also be, not here in Detroit, but down in Birmingham, Alabama a few years back, they had their water system go out entirely. And here in Southeast Michigan, that's incredibly important to make sure we've got good water getting to our communities. But we thought, what can we do? Well, we froze water deliveries at all fulfillment centers in a 35-mile radius and sent 100,000 pallets directly to the city. So the second problem to solve was trying to figure out who can take 100,000 pallets of water, but it's really focusing on how we can deliver in those times of need.
Wow, that's great. So I see some nonprofit leaders here, and maybe they currently don't have a relationship with Amazon. How would you recommend that they connect with you and the Amazon team to figure out if there's an opportunity to collaborate on a community need?
So I'd say at Amazon, we are a very detailed and writing-based culture, and we put together very baked plans throughout the year, but we're constantly assessing what's going on in the community. We're really big on two-way doors and one-way doors. And two-way doors meaning we can strike up a partnership very quickly to address needs with local nonprofits. And if we create a program that's unique, that's helping solve a problem, and it does really well, as Kyle spoke about, we can scale it. We like to share information not only with other nonprofits, but other operation sites across the country. And we've had really great success sharing some of those details. And also, one-way door is a decision that we'd have to really have a lot of diligence on if we're going to make a partnership that we can't come back from. And so I think what's neat about community engagement is that we're really built to focus with partners who have been making change in the community. And when you think about getting in touch with us, it's as simple as Kyle said, just pick up the phone or return our phone call. I'm available. And that's the purpose of this role, to have someone to interact with directly. Prior to this existing, folks had a difficult time getting in touch in the community and knowing who that person was. And that's from, the good things that are happening and the bad things that are happening. And so, more frankly, just you can reach out to me directly, email me, or give me a shout. I live locally as well, too.
So, that's pretty generous. Can you share with everyone the territories you're responsible for, and what's your email address?
Yeah. It's really great. We started off focused on how can we, work in the community directly around our operation sites to make sure there was a good relationship there. More recently, we've moved to global geographic giving, where community engagement at Amazon will be a direct conduit, not only to our operations sites, but to all of the Amazon organizations. So from Zeus, our autonomous vehicle ride-sharing company, to Amazon MGM Studios, we want to make sure we're connecting those local ideas with the platform broadly. So you can get in touch if you have an idea, or just want to take us out to see your project, your nonprofit directly, and we can set up a meeting. CONYERIA@amazon.com.
And he'll respond.
Yeah.
He'll respond.
CONYERIA@amazon.com.
And he will. He's very good at it. Amazon's taken a large role in supporting food. I already talked about that. Amazon has several truly unique businesses, from Prime Video to AWS, Kyle. Are there local partnerships that show how best to collaborate with Amazon and community engagement that you're familiar with, or you want to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. Really awesome project that we did last year. 2 years ago, we started streaming Thursday night on Amazon, so Thursday Night Football on Prime. We wanted to really make sure that we were giving back to the communities and getting involved and engaged with those folks. And so we struck up a partnership with Boys and Girls Clubs of America and the Smithsonian, and made a partnership to deliver 1 million books to those clubs across the country. Here in Detroit, we were able to bring our D-Tackle DJ Reader for a really special day of reading and fun games and teaching how to tackle, but it was safe, and to really celebrate that partnership. We also worked locally with the Detroit Pistons. We're also streaming NBA on Prime Video, which is very exciting. We have a partnership that we've been calling Shop 313 that uses the power of sport to bring entrepreneurs, web-based entrepreneurs, and local sellers to the table. Just 2 weeks ago on Wednesday at their practice facility, which is also in the city of Detroit, a very awesome location, we brought folks out for a day of training and enrichment, everything from how to sell on Amazon 101, how to use Amazon Web Services to scale your business, but also we gave the opportunity to local sellers who are here in Metro Detroit, who are across the state of Michigan, to talk about their product. We brought out a group called Beyond Chips that have had tremendous success selling on Amazon. And so we really want to be highlighting those stories. I think it's nearly 60% of small businesses that are on the Amazon platform are local businesses. And giving the opportunity to their own community members to see them as such was great.
That's a great transition. As we talk about the economic development team, Kyle, you've had the opportunity to support a wide range of projects across the Midwest and in Canada. What are some of the things that the economic development community in Michigan does well?
Something I touched on a little bit earlier, but the regional collaboration. Amazon's facilities, like I've mentioned, are so large that the impact is not always just felt in that exact community that it's in. It's expands the region and a pretty wide radius outside of that. So we work, I think I mentioned, Detroit Regional Partnership's been great for projects in Metro Detroit and the Grand Rapids area, the right place there. We've worked with LEAP in Lansing. And they're kind of the connector for us too. So it's not just the economic development piece of the site selection, but how we don't come into a community and say this is how Amazon does things, and we're happy to be here. They really inform us on these are the organizations that we feel like Ian and his team should connect with, and others on our public policy team. Like these are the individuals, these are the neighborhood associations, and I think they have that kind of collaborative mindset, which we don't. I mean, covering in a very big area. It happens in other places too, but not necessarily as well as in Michigan. And as you look at some of the programs I mentioned, like our rural delivery network that we're expanding at the moment, and Project Kuiper, and things that are not in your kind of traditional urban areas, organizations like MEDC have been tremendously helpful. I cover a very big area. I don't know who the economic development director is, in various jurisdictions in the Upper Peninsula, for example, that we're looking at for expanding that network too. So that kind of, at the state level, the umbrella organization, the regional partnership, the continued communication that we have with them, and they're always, reaching out, what's the next great thing that Amazon's working on, and that makes us excited about doing the next projects in Michigan too, because they're kind of the quarterback in the equation, and it's really worked out really well.
So as we get ready to wrap up here, maybe Ian, let's close with what would you like everyone to know as we wrap up and about you and Amazon and the impact Amazon's having?
It's just been amazing to have the opportunity to interact with so many local organizations, and the opportunity to see people, go from concept to delivering results. We like to learn the culture of organizations that we work with, and so many of these projects have brought really just great opportunity to connect at the human level, at the block club level, at the hyper-local level. And so, we're going to keep going forward. We think it's a fantastic program, and we're going to continue to engage locally in the community, excited to spread statewide, and, make an impact, innovate, and work hard, have fun, make history.
And Kyle, in closing, what would you like to close with?
We've spent a lot of times talking about our obsession over customers and working backwards from the customer to solve problems. But I don't want you to leave thinking that the only customer that we care about is just that customer on Amazon.com. I mean, we are focused, in Ian's, thank goodness that he's on our team in Michigan now, solving problems at the local level, and people who may not have ever shopped at Amazon and are benefiting from our presence in their communities. So we want to be that employer. That's one of the reasons that we're here too, is just to kind of demystify. So many people use Amazon but might not necessarily understand how we function, how we engage, how we find sites. So I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to sit up here and share this with you all. And like I said, hopefully next time I'm here, it'll be not 26 locations, it'll be 36, and there'll be satellites and drones and everything else serving our customers here too. So just thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you both for your time, and that concludes our session. Thank you so much. Thank you.
One-on-one.
If you have any questions, they're going to stick around if you want to talk to
Yeah, we're here.
Thank you.